Okay, welcome to the first video in the FJ44 Replica series. This is a studio photo of an actual Icon chassis. It's of the shorter two-door FJ, but it's still a great reference for detail. Very lucky to have access to all of Icon's press photos, videos, and CAD files for this project. My goal for the first phase of the build is to end up being able to shoot photos of the chassis and have them look as close to the real thing as possible. Starting with the brass framework, I had already made the cross members and rear suspension mounts using a mixture of both solid and tubular stock. The two main frame rails were machined by Chris Robinson at GCM Racing using Icon's CAD files, and they were later bent here in my shop to match the taper in the chassis of the actual truck. My buddy Colin really helped me out by machining these basic shapes for the front shock towers out of brass billet using his mill. And after a bunch of measurements, they were trimmed up to look like this. I'm using this miniature brass hardware on certain high-stress parts before soldering, so they're pinned to add strength. Some of the nuts will be trimmed off later, flush with the frame rails, and some I'll leave on for scale detail. Here, I'm drilling the holes for the rear bump stops, and then proceeding to blow the shavings into my sandals. So these are just the sleeves or the mounts to hold the bump stops. More detail will be added later on, but I wanted to get them soldered in this round. Doing a little deburring and cleaning while things are apart so the solder bonds. Just like any welding, a clean surface makes for better welds. When GCM did the machining on the rear axle housings, they left me some space to add pads, as seen here in our reference photos. They create a surface area for the bump stops to rest on when the suspension is under full load. We'll see more of these axle modifications in later videos. It doesn't take long for the brass to oxidize once the air and finger grime do their thing. As I work on the piece, I notice it dulls down, so it requires quite a bit of cleanup in between. Alright, so here I trimmed away at a piece of rectangular brass tube until it looked like this. These little parts were made to hold the front torsion bar tube in place. The overhanging material will be trimmed off after soldering. The purpose of the brackets are to hold the tube against the frame rails and provide a little reservoir for solder so I can get a good solid weld in. Fans, owners, and builders of real Icons may have noticed that the front suspension mounts are in slightly different locations. So because I need to hide electronics and still have this model function, I needed to make a few edits. But I think, as a whole, this will not only function and scale off-road, it will still look pretty close to its full-size counterpart. Okay guys, that wraps it up for this video. Again, we're just playing catch-up, and as the videos progress, I hope to tighten up the edits and video flow. I hope you enjoyed it so far. Thanks for taking the time to watch.